Okay, I'm here in the hallway as you come in the stage, the back door. Um, I'm going to walk you through how to turn on the sound system and get everything up and running, including monitors and front of house, as well as waves. So the first thing I do is I go into the production room and I open the patch room door. It's this door. Open it up. And turn on the brain. So the switch is on the front here. This Furman power conditioner. Just pop it on and the brain will come on. If that's not on, nothing will work. So after you get the brain on, come out here and I always turn on my stage lights. They're the work lights under this control power sticker. There are 3 rows of work lights on stage. 1, 2, and 3. I turn all of them on. The next thing I do is I always turn off these 2 yellow tabbed breakers in this first breaker box. Turn them off. That's the pump and the heater for the baptistry. So always want those off whenever we're having any kind of service or you're running sound, because there's a low frequency hum that comes from those pumps if you don't turn them off in the room. Next thing I do in the second panel, there are 3 colored breakers in here. It's the bottom one. It's kind of a shade of blue. It's the blue lights under the mezzanine or underneath the canopy or balcony, so people can see as they come in the back of the room. When all the lights are off and we're running lights on stage, it's kind of dark back there, and so those lights help people see, but they don't put a whole lot of light in the room. They just light up the back so that people can see. On Sunday morning, if this is a Sunday morning when you're powering everything up, there are 4 breakers in this box. They're labeled BAL step lights, balcony step lights. You're going to need to turn those on. There's 2 on top right here, and then there's a spare that you don't turn on, and then there are 2 more below it, balcony step lights. We're not going to need them today, so I'm going to turn them off. Today's a Wednesday, so we don't need them on Wednesday night, only on Sunday morning, so that people can see going up and down the steps. And then we'll move on to the next thing. The next thing I always do is I come back out into the hallway here and open the monitor closet door. There's a variety of different things that you may need that are in this room. If you're running any stage wedge monitors, you will need to turn on these power amps. Okay, so the monitors are labeled, or the wedges are labeled on the monitor console, VSXL1, VSXL right, VSXR, stage right, stage left wedges. Okay, so the first channel comes from the middle of the stage. The second channel comes from Keith's box where his microphone and guitar patch in. So if you're running from channel 1, the signal's gonna come from the middle of the stage, that speak on plug, and you will need, for both channel 1 and 2, the first amp needs to be on. For channel 3 and 4, this one needs to come on. So really right now, the way we're running everything, channels 1 and 2 are on amp 1. Channels 3 and 4 are on amp 2. 3 is what we call Al. It's really for Al or Dale when Dale plays, Al and Dale share that mix, that wedge. It comes from channel 10. That's what it's labeled on stage. All that stuff, if you're running sound, that stuff will probably be set up for you, or I could walk you through it if need be. If it's something that changes the day of or the day before or something, and I'm out of town, I could walk you through how to get that patched up and ready to go. So now we're going to move to turning on consoles. So I'm here on stage, and since I'm down here turning on monitor mixes, the amps and things, or the patch room, I'm in there turning on the brain and all the lights and everything. I just come on down to the monitor console, which is on stage. There are two switches on the back of the console. If you can see, there are two power supply cables. Next to those cables, on the left side of the cable, there's a power switch. It has dual power supplies, so both of those power supplies have to be turned on in order for the console to boot up. Also, down here below the console, there's here are our ears on this side. Power, Pro 7, the outlets, that turns all the outlets on. So that's got that set. And then on this next rack, there's lights on one side, and then a power conditioner switch here that turns on all the outlets for the wireless mics. Right now there's an extra unit that is up here on top of the ear rack. As you can see, it should come on when you turn on this Pro 7 outlet. It's connected to that, so it should come on. Above the wireless mic rack, there's a wireless router that controls Compass, our remote access to Compass. I'll show you that when we get to front of house. If that's not on, you will not be able to connect wirelessly to Compass to be able to mute and do any changes to house, any of the house speakers or whatever, which you probably won't have to do. But you will need to be able to unmute the Compass for signal to come out of the speakers, and I'll show you that when we get to front of house. One last thing about Monitor World here, there'll be a thing that comes up on the screen that says there's multiple upgrade files. You can just click on OK on that. We're not going to be upgrading any upgrade files anytime soon. If you look here on the console, there's a row of clear buttons. The second one down, it says monitors/preference. If you double click that button, hit it twice, it's going to bring up a page under configuration that allows you to turn on the remote control server. That has to be on. Just click start. You'll see it says starting, and then it'll say active once it boots up. That allows you to use iPads to control mixes and things like that. If that's not on, the iPads will not connect to the console, and you won't have access to make your mix or whatever. So be sure and turn that on. So we're just outside the hallway, standing in the worship center here, and as you can see, there are no lights on. So the first thing, if there are no lights on, you're going to want to come over, and maybe even if there are lights on, you're going to want to make sure that this control panel on the wall here, number one is selected. Once you hit number one, you'll see that some lights come on, and just shortly after, the cans in the room will come on. Not the high bays, the cans. Okay? They'll come on in just a second. There they are. And if you notice, you probably didn't notice this a minute ago when I was on stage, but there were only maybe one row of work lights on. Now all the work lights are on stage, so you can see the work on stage. If you hit one and you've got work lights rows 1, 2, and 3 on, and you select one on this pad over here on the wall, you'll get all your work lights on. Okay, you can also do it by hitting 8 on this. You can see this thing, this little sticker tells you 8 is high bays plus stage. So that would be the high bays in the room, which it takes them a few minutes to warm up. A lot of times I just turn the cans on, and that's what we use for service anyway, are those cans. So anyway, head on up to front of house and let's get that rolling. So I've made it up to front of house. If you can notice here on the wall, there are 2 switches. The white switch is how you turn the speakers on in the room. All right, it controls all power to the speakers. All right, if there's no power to the speakers, you won't get any audio. This light switch is just lights for up here, so you can kind of see where you're working on, see what you're doing. We turn those off during service because obviously they add light to the room, in which you don't want that if you're running lights on stage. So leave this off until we get some things booted up. I'll show you. So the first thing I do is I always turn on the console. On the back of the console, on the right hand side of the console, there's a switch back there. It'll take you a little bit to find it, but once you find it, it's underneath a little bar, a little toggle switch. You just pop it down and the console will start booting up. Okay, it takes it a minute to boot up. While we're waiting for that, we'll come over to our computer back here that controls our compass. Wake it up. Click on the screen, and it should ask you if you want to log in, sign in. So we'll sign into this. Okay. One of the things that I always check is to make sure that our wireless router that's sitting on top of the wireless mics is connected. It's called Galileo, and as you can see, Galileo is connected and running. So I'll come down here and click on my Galileo tab. It's right here. Click on it, open the Compass program. This screen is touchscreen. You can maximize your window. This is the only program we run on this computer. So click on Galileo at the top, and you'll see that there are 2 Galileos individually on the connected, okay, or set up. You just click refresh on the first one, let it open up. Click the second one, let it open up, and then you have to click that same button, connect to both of those. And then up here there's 2 tabs, Hill View number 1 and Hill View number 2. If you click on it, 9 times out of 10, these are going to be muted. You can see those 2 channels are muted. This is half the speakers in the room. We're going to leave them muted now. The other 2 are muted also. So that gives you the green light. If those 2 are red, those 2 mutes are enabled. We're muting any signal from the console or from anything from going through the compass, okay, and coming out the speakers. So any pops or anything booting up or anything being connected would not come out of the Galileo and damage the speakers. So now we'll go over here and we'll turn on our speakers, pop those on. One way you know that they're on is you have a green light here at the bottom of your monitor speaker on both sides. There's another green light here. So now we can go and unmute these channels. You just have to mute. They're stereo channels, they're linked together. So you can just hit one of them and it will unmute both. So now we have audio that's traveling past our compass to our speakers. There are a few Furmans that you have to turn on at front of house. There's one here. There are 2 over here. okay? And then there's one back here. Gotta make sure you can get those on. The next thing we're gonna need to do is bring up our Waves computer and get it running. There is a password for this account. Okay, so you click on the icon there, type in capital H, lowercase h, lowercase c, AUDIO. It's HHC audio with a capital H, no spaces, all lowercase other than the one capital H at the beginning. And then it will come up. And then here in a second, we'll go through how to get Waves up and running and make sure you're squared away on that. So we've got all of our units on. Our monitor console is on. Our house console is on. Compass is connected. We've unmuted our channels. Before we did that, we did go ahead and turn on our speakers, and then we unmuted the compasses. We know everything is connected and working correctly because we have a green status symbol here on the console. It shows us that if we click on that status, it shows us that all, I don't know if you can see that, might be a little too bright, but it shows us that all of our connections have been made and they're working properly. And click that status thing again, it'll go away. So we're good to go so far. The next thing we're going to need to do is get Waves up and running. So you have a Waves server back here. It comes on when you turn on this power conditioner here, and you see it's got a red light that's blinking. That just means that we have not connected to it. We're not running Waves at the moment. And if you're not running Waves, you're not going to get any of your signal from your console or from the stage box to work because they've all been inserted through Waves. So you have to have Waves up and going or they will not work. So on this PC, this MacBook, the first thing you're going to want to do is come down here to this green SoundGrid Studio icon. If you double tap with your fingers, the pad, that's like right click, you're going to see that this application is not open. It cannot be open when you open Waves. There are a few reasons why. I'm not really going to go through them. You just need to make sure before you open Multi-Rack that this is not open. It would say quit once you right clicked it if it was open. Okay, it's not open now, so we're going to go ahead and open Multi-Rack SoundGrid. It's the blue cursor at the bottom, the blue icon that says it's got a little Waves icon, and then it says SG. When you hover over it, it'll say Multi-Rack SoundGrid. That's where we run all of our channels through to do outboard processing. So if you click on that, it's going to open up, and as soon as it does, this status light is going to turn blue, and it's going to see it. It's going to load up. It's going to come up here. You're going to see the red lights on the side, and then once it gets loaded up, all those lights should turn white, and they did. SoundGrid driver is connected. I don't know if you can see it there. It's telling us what our system is running at, the percentage, the memory that we're using, and all that. And we've got a blue button. That tap button is lighting up blue. So we know we have a good connection. If you wanted to test it, you could just run some audio somewhere from a microphone or whatever. You can actually pick up your microphone that's here by the computer. It lays right here. Pick it up, turn it on, hit on the console these two talk buttons, okay, and then come over to one of your vocal channels, and at the top of the strip there's a talk button, okay. If you hit talk, it's going to light up green. Okay. And then if you talk through your microphone, as you can see, we're getting signal to the Waves grid, multi-rack, and back to the console, then out to the speakers and everything. So we're good to go. You can also monitor it here. If you see the green channel, that's what I've selected to talk back through. I'm getting signal to that channel. Can you see that? I think you can see it. Maybe. Okay. So that's working correctly. We're gonna go ahead and make sure we unselect those talk buttons, and we're back to our normal microphone. All right, so you're up and running. I hope this helps everybody get everything up and running and working the way that it needs to. As always, if you have questions or whatever, you can call me, get with me over the phone, and I can walk you through anything we need to adjust or reset or shut down and bring back up. You know, it's all computers, so sometimes there definitely may be some time that we need to shut down a program and bring it back up just for it to connect appropriately. So yeah, just give me a buzz if there's a problem with anything you have going on, and we'll get it taken care of. So also on this MacBook, this is where we run our house music. And so to get that going, what we do is I go up to the Wi-Fi network that I'm connected to. I don't know if you can see that, but there's one labeled Hillview Heights Church. That's the one I use typically for Wi-Fi on this computer. I don't need to connect to any of the Midas Pro networks. I just need an internet network that's stable. Typically for me, it seems to work out better. There's some firewalls and stuff on the staff network that I like to avoid whenever I'm running just my background music. So I typically select Hillview Heights Church. Once it connects up, I just come down here and open Chrome, Google Chrome, and then up at the top there's a Spotify tab. Click on Spotify. Then here on the page there's an Open Web Player tab. Open the web player. It's going to bring open the account. It's going to show all my playlist and everything. Typically for house music, I have a pre-service playlist. It's called Pre-Service 2. If you click on that, play your audio. Now, as long as your headphone cable is plugged in, you should get audio out of your computer to the house, or I'm sorry, to the console. So I'll run it here. So I'm playing my music here. You can see it's playing. Also, if you can look on the console, your channel that's labeled MP3, you're getting your signal. The fader's all the way down, so you're not getting any audio, but if you turn it up, you're gonna get it. So that's how you get your house music going. All right. So to get your remote server connected on the house console, it's much like the same on the monitor console. There are a row of these buttons. The second to the last one is labeled monitors/preferences. Click it twice, twice. It'll bring up your screen to start your remote server. It says stopped. Okay, we're gonna start it. You're gonna click the button, start. It's gonna start. Now it's active. So the next thing you need to do is get your iPad, and behind this thing right here, there's a screw up here. That's where I hang these keys. They hang up here on that little screw that's in the back. I get them out. This key unlocks this little lock right here. Open it up. There's your iPad. So get your iPad out. Typically I get the iPad out and I get the power supply. Unplug it. There's a little extension cable in here that I plug it in. I usually bring it over here to this side, the left side of the console, and plug it in my Furman. Now, typically, when I open this thing up, I'm going to close the program. Go in here to my settings. It's going to be connected to Hillview Heights Church. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. I don't want it to be connected to that network. I want it to be connected to Midas 3 5 gigahertz. Oop, wrong one. Midas 3 5 gigahertz. It's going to connect. Close out my settings window. Open Mix Tender. Okay, and it's going to ask me if I want to connect. I'm going to connect, and it should come right up. I have house music going, so that's my input, 47 and 48. You can see there it's running, and I'm getting audio if I want to turn it up. So it's connected. All right, so that's how you connect your iPad to the console.